So, as Becky said, I'm going to talk to you about crafting an inbound marketing strategy. Now, trying to talk about crafting an inbound marketing strategy in 15 minutes is a little bit tricky, so we're not going to be deep diving into every element. What I'm hoping to achieve from this is to give you a little bit of context to today in terms about what the inbound methodology is and what you need to contain. And then hopefully some of the other people later on in the day will take deeper dives into each element of what I'm talking about. So before I jump into that, I just want to give you a quick intro to myself. My name's Rikki Lear. I'm the director at Digital 22. We are a HubSpot Platinum agency. And I've been involved in digital marketing for around 10 years. So I'm going to start the inbound marketing strategy probably where most people don't start. And if you've read online, anything to do with this probably isn't the first step. But I think it's critical to really early on in your journey of making a plan is to identify what your marketing and sales funnel will look like. The reason for this is if you get this right, you've got a set of goals which both your marketing and your sales team will both have to make sure you are aligned and hit the company's targets. And it will also give you a place to analyze whether you're going right or wrong. To do this, you'll need to understand a few crucial things. So if you're an agency, you're going to need to understand what your client's goals are in terms of new revenue, what the lifetime value of an average customer is. And you're also going to need to speak to these guys. This is the representation of what I get when I think of a salesperson. And I know for most marketers, and particularly agencies as well, speaking to salespeople is something that most of us don't do or most of us try to avoid. But I think it's pretty critical you do this very early on because you need to understand what happens from when you submit a lead to the sales team to then become the customer so you can figure out what you need to do as marketers to achieve those company goals. When you start this conversation with salespeople, if you've had any experience the same as me, most of them will just say, just give me the leads, I'll close them. My closing rate's 100% or 90% or whatever. You're probably going to want to ignore that advice and try and talk to them a little bit more about it. Because if they're telling you they're going to close 90%, then that means you have to provide them less leads. So the pressure would be on them to close at 90%. So you really want them to understand what they're saying is true. And the reason that most salespeople will tell you a high number like that if they haven't done inbound in the past is because they're used to dealing with leads from things like referrals, which tend to close a lot higher rate and obviously a lot faster as well. Once you have those pieces of information, you can start putting a funnel together which looks something like this. So the funnel I've put together here it's quite a simplistic funnel, and every company's funnel will look extremely different. It could be longer, it could be shorter. Those conversion rates could be much higher and lower. But just to give a very brief overview of how this could look, if a company is looking to achieve £2 million sales in new business over the next 3 years, and an average client to them is worth 18.5K, you can quickly work out that you need roughly 108 customers over that time frame, which equates to about 3 customers per month. Now, after speaking with sales, you've got them down to somewhere near a realistic target of what their close rate is, which is 15%, which means they know they need to be doing 6 proposals per month. Again, speaking to the sales guys, they reckon they can turn a third of leads into proposals, so then you know you need to provide your sales guys with 20 leads per month. From your experience as marketers, you can figure out how many contacts will turn into leads, and in this example, we've got 10%. And then again, from your experience, you can figure out what your conversion rate is from your website to contacts. Again, I think it's pretty critical to do this up front, and what it'll allow you to do is figure out if the inbound marketing strategy isn't working for whatever purpose, which stage this has fallen down at, who's dropping the baton, so to speak, and you can quickly fix it. Once you've got that established, you'll want to do a little bit of research before jumping in and figuring out exactly how to make those numbers come to life. So the 2 pieces of research, which you probably come across if you've done anything around inbound, are buyers' personas, firstly. Again, pretty critical that you don't skip this step. So having good, solid buyers' personas is going to make the rest of your marketing much easier, which I'll talk about in a moment. It'll also give you that context and understanding of your market that you need to produce correct content. From my experience, every extra hour you put into making these personas right, you'll get that back in marketing results. So what does a persona include? So typical personas include what the roles and responsibilities of that individual are, what their goals and challenges are from both a personal perspective and a business perspective, as well as what their expected experience is with you and your product and services and what common objections they may have to that. To get this information, you'll need to use your own experience in that industry or perhaps your client's experience in that industry. You'll need to do some third-party research online. And most importantly, you actually need to be talking to some of these personas. So where I see this go wrong quite a lot is people will make personas just off their own perceptions of what they're expecting these guys' days to be like, what their challenges are, without actually speaking to them. And sometimes that perception and reality is quite different. Once you've got those personas, you're going to want to do buyer's journeys for each one of them. So a buyer's journey is the process that those guys go on to eventually buying your product and service. So again, pretty critical that you do this for two reasons. From my experience speaking to marketers over my career, most people focus their marketing right at the decision phase of the buyer's journey. So this means it's extremely competitive down there. And if you think of most traditional digital tactics like SEO and PPC, most people are focused on those short-tail keywords that are decision-based, hoping that people are going to land on their website today and buy. In reality, there's actually, in most markets, only somewhere between kind of 3 and 7% of people at any one time ready to pick up the phone to you and buy, or buy online, or whatever your business model is. So by not thinking about the full buyer's journey, you're actually not talking to the vast majority of people that go on your website, and you're missing out a chance to engage with them quite early on. So the phases of the buyer's journey are awareness. At this part of the journey, people have a problem, and they're expressing symptoms of it and wanting to understand it. So to put that in context, on the last slide, we had a persona, a business owner, which is a persona we target. One of their challenges might be, my business is plateauing. How do I take my business to the next phase of growth? That might be the awareness stage symptom that they're showing. They'll then go into the consideration phase, which is when they'll try and research and understand what are my options for solving this problem. Again, tying it back to the persona I just spoke about, if he's wanting to grow his business, here he's going to get a wealth of options. So he might be represented with telesales, PR, hiring more salespeople, and inbound just happens to be one of those solutions that could solve their problem. Then finally, they're going to get to the bottom of the buyer's journey, and at this phase, they're really committed to solving the problem they have. They're committed to one of those solutions, and they're just picking a supplier to provide them with that service. So again, they might know they want to grow the company. They might choose to use inbound, and at this stage, they're just picking which agency or hiring skill sets they want to do. So the final bit of research you'll need to do to bring the stats we spoke about on the marketing to sales funnel to life is keyword research. Obviously, the strategy that I'm outlining is a numbers game. So it's important to get into your keyword research and try and understand how you're actually going to bring that top-level traffic to reality. Keyword research is one of the best and most accurate ways you can do this. So I'm not going to go into each of the 4 ways of attracting traffic, which are in the inbound methodology, because we've got talks on these later. But the 4 key ways in the methodology for attracting traffic are SEO, blogging, social media, and finally paid, which used to be a bit of a dirty word in inbound and HubSpot. We've always used it. And the advantages of having paid in your strategy, it can give you that short-term boost. So inbound by its nature is quite a slow burn. If you're wanting results in the first kind of six months or so, you probably want some paid as part of your strategy. The other reason we use paid is to try and do some testing. So there's nothing worse for the marketer than spending months building out detailed workflows, building out landing pages, building out calls to actions, only to find out 6 months later when you actually start getting some traffic to them that they don't work. So if you want to know pretty early on, send some paid traffic to them, make sure they work and tested so that when your inbound really kicks in from an organic perspective, you're ready. Next, if you're getting those top level of visitors to your site, you're going to want to have to figure out how to convert those into contacts and how to convert them into leads. And through the inbound methodology, the way we do this is via content. So the first thing you want to do if you're creating a strategy for the first time is do a content audit, which is basically mapping out what content you currently got against the phases of the buyer's journey. Don't be surprised if you do this for the first time and you've never done inbound, that all the content you've probably produced is at the decision stage. So people are most comfortable writing about and producing content about what they know, which usually is product literature, service literature, case studies, testimonials. If you're new to this, that's probably the only type of content that you've produced. So it's good to map that out and note down where your gaps are in your content strategy. And what I'd make a note of here is you want a lot more content at awareness phase than you do decision phase. So it probably only takes a couple of pieces of content, really, to get somebody over the line at decision stage. You may only want a couple of case studies, a couple of testimonials, a trial or a demo or whatever your business model is. It doesn't actually take hundreds of pieces of content at the bottom of the funnel to convert people, but sometimes it actually does take hundreds of pieces of content at the top of the funnel to get those contacts you need to fill your funnel. So back to the sales guys and where marketing can align with these. From my perspective, you need a marketing CRM to pin this all together. This isn't a sales pitch for HubSpot, but from my experience trying to do it the other way, a lot of your data disconnects. And when you've had that conversation with your sales guys about what makes a lead, a lot of the trigger points via these channels we're talking about, which can easily disconnect. So if you talk to your sales guys and you know that the trigger point for them to be able to talk to a prospect when they're marketing qualified is them visiting a pricing page on your website, downloading a particular case study, requesting a demo, you're going to want all that information in one place so you can easily pass your leads along from marketing to say, hey, these guys are qualified, they've done the trigger that you set out, and now they're ready for you to speak to them. That's pretty hard to do without a CRM. The second way you guys can help is obviously there's going to be a lot of contacts coming into the database at the top of the funnel through all our content we spoke about. So if people are downloading an ebook, so back to our example, if it's just a guide to growing your business, they're not ready to talk to sales yet. So you're going to want to nurture them via email until they're ready to speak to a sales rep. So they might just download an ebook about growing the business. The next stage might be to show them a comparison of inbound versus outbound, what the pros and cons are. Eventually, through a series of emails, they'll get to the bottom of the funnel. They'll download a case study on how we did this for a client or something like that. And then that's when your part's done and you pass the baton over to sales. So a few other considerations when you're putting your strategy together. As I said, the platform's quite important. We suggest HubSpot, others are available. Picking what the roles and responsibilities are. So across all the channels I just spoke about, the tactics there's actually quite a wide skill set needed to pull this off. Sometimes you can find this in one person. It's quite hard. But sometimes you can. But you've got to really map out who's going to be doing what parts of this to make it happen. For some reason, my third point popped off my slide, but it was to analyze and iterate. So from my experience, if you don't put milestones in your strategy of when you're going to analyze, you'll probably never get around to analyzing. So it's really important that things like workflows, landing pages, you've got times pointed out when you believe these will be ready to analyze, and you can make a plan accordingly. Personally, we think 90 days is about right to do that, so we work in 90-day cycles for our analyzing and iterating. And I hope that's given you a very top-level overview of inbound marketing strategy, which some of the other members of the UK Hug are going to go into in more detail. We're going to send around an email with some templates relating to all of that content, so you can have a go at making your own buyers' personas, buyers' journeys, and your marketing to sales funnel. I'll be in the room at the back after this event if you want a more in-depth discussion on inbound marketing strategy. And I'm going to pass you guys over to Vaughn.